Hello, credit union community. Here are your topics for today's show. First up, let's tackle the artificial elephant in the room. Is AI living up to the hype, or are credit unions getting more flash than substance? We're breaking down the truth. Then we'll dive into the Fed's rate cuts. More importantly, we're talking strategy. How can your credit union make the move to better prepare for a lower rate environment? And finally, we'll reveal how to ignite a culture of innovation at your credit union. Ready to shake things up? Let's get started. Welcome to Grow Your Credit Union, the podcast where credit union leaders gather, learn, and grow. I am your host, Joshua Barkley, and I am joined today by a very special guest co-host, per recommendation of Becky Reed. She was one of our very first guests on Grow Your Credit Union. I'm talking about the COO of Great Lakes Credit Union, Elizabeth Osborne. Elizabeth, hello.
Hello. Woo woo. Thank you for the opening. So honored to be asked.
So happy to have you back, Elizabeth. And I have to ask you, very first thing here, I have family from Illinois, Southern Illinois. So every summer I go to the Carbondale area, which I know it's probably not really Illinois. It's probably more like St. Louis at this point, right? So I go into the St. Louis airport and everybody kind of chastises me about how I still haven't made my way to Chicago to visit my cousin Megan. So I have to ask you, if I go to Chicago this year, what is your favorite restaurant? Like, what is the quintessential Chicago restaurant that I need to visit?
Oh my gosh, what a question, because Chicago is made for foodies. So there are fabulous restaurants everywhere. It's hard to go wrong. And it's also a big city, so it depends where you're staying. So going back to my initial upbringing, which I started my career in the restaurant industry and started with Pizzeria Uno. So the original, and there's a lot of banter back and forth on whether or not this is true, but I'm telling you it's the truth. Deep dish was created by Ike Sewell at Pizzeria Uno. It is what it is, whether you like it or not. But the original Pizzeria Uno downtown on the corner of Ohio and Wabash, you got to try it. Go there, plan ahead, because it takes a while to make it because they make it the right way. But it is delicious.
Elizabeth, I'm going to take your word for it, but I will also let you know I lived in New York City for about a decade. So I'm going to bring that East Coast snobbery to this pizza experience. You better be ready for it.
I'm ready.
Hey, you know what else I'm ready for? I'm ready for today's show, Elizabeth. Let's bring on our guest. Today, we welcome the president and CEO of Michigan State University Federal Credit Union, April Klobus. April, welcome to Grow Your Credit Union.
Thank you for having me on.
The AI hype, it's everywhere. It's at conferences, articles, movies, podcasts. It seems like the AI buzz won't die down, but some, like Ron Shevlin of Cornerstone, are pumping the brakes a little bit. In a recent LinkedIn post, Ron called out what he sees as the 3 big lies of AI. And here are the 3 lies that he proposes. Lie number 1, AI will bring immediate cost reduction. Lie number 2, we need AI to remain competitive. And lie number 3, we've already seen extensive gains from AI. April, of these 3 big lies of AI, which one do you disagree with the most?
Likely number 3, and I can explain why. So we have used AI for service chatbot for nearly 5 years now. And in a member service live agent chatting versus having a virtual assistant on the front end of the live chat, we've reduced, based upon the volume of chats that we receive, the equivalent of 65 employees for live chatting.
Wow.
Eat your heart out, Ron.
Now, is that going to replace every employee? Is it going to replace every aspect of service? No. I still have live chatting agents for really complex, unique transactions. But the reality is we have at our organization, right, we have in our vision statement includes the phrase of human intelligence and artificial intelligence working together, right, to create the member experience. And I think that's where we're headed. And I think some people think AI means no human intelligence ever again. And I think that's maybe what he's focusing on, is that it's not all AI solutions for everything that you're doing.
Got it. Elizabeth, which of these three do you disagree with the most?
Yeah. So what caught my attention, the whole post caught my attention, I have to say, but number 2 in particular. So totally agree with what April said, and we've had similar results. So thank you for sharing that. I was excited to hear it. But number 2 concerned me because I feel that if we are going out there and saying that we don't need AI to remain competitive, that you're just giving a lot of leaders that are already hesitant to introduce AI another excuse not to introduce it. And so you have to really think about AI is just another tool in your toolbox to address a use case that guarantee you have, whether it's on the lending side, whether it's member service, whether it's fraud detection, automation, it's endless. If you're not taking action today, you will get left behind. And so that's where I just worry that you're just enabling some people that are already worried. A lot of leaders out there that are worried about what it means and how to do it. Another reason not to take advantage of this great technology that is here to stay and is just going to continue to grow and evolve over time.
Yeah, a lot of the leaders that I talk to, they have cold feet about it. They're worried about the security. They're worried about a lot of things. And also, I think that the AI hype is lacking a little bit of detail. And what I mean by that, and this comes into my next question for the both of you. There's a lot of talk about AI, but there's not a lot of talk about like the use cases that people are pursuing right now. But I don't want to hear about what's going to happen in 2030 or even 2027 or even 2026 or 2025. Let's talk about right now, what are the use cases? And April, you mentioned the chatbot thing, but I'd love to ask you, what are some other areas of your credit union that you're going to be using AI strategically to improve upon?
Absolutely. So we do have service AI. So it is designed for, our online chat, but we have it in front of the calls. And then we have some work in the branches, and we have the opportunity to utilize AI in service in the branches, meaning when you connect into the branch. So we do have a better lobby experience where you type your name in and what's happening. Can we integrate if somebody's comfortable with a digital ID instead? Can we then also pull through, these are the last 5 branch visits, and so we can see that you typically do this and offer, is this why you're here? Or did you come for a new reason today? Right. So I think creating those efficiencies, we're working to use AI for some of that. We're looking at AI for the opportunity to create processes that would have been manual reports and programs for our employees to work, and then help have those standardized, and then AI kind of tell you when there's anomalies that humans need to pay attention to. And so to me, I don't think AI is making our organization have a competitive advantage. It is a tool that will help deliver what we think is our competitive advantage, which is service and speed and efficiency and taking care of our member. And we can do that better and faster when we integrate some AI.
Yeah, I like how you talk about the human element, to your point. And that may be what Ron was kind of, I don't know if he was missing it or maybe he was just alluding to the idea of the removal of the human element. But I like that you talk about the human side and how you're interacting with AI versus AI taking over everything. Elizabeth, how is Great Lakes pursuing AI right now? Is there any early projects that you're either about to implement or something that you're just doing right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, so much like what April just shared with us, our focus has been very member service. So if we think about the credit union industry, we are known for providing our members with outstanding service. So anything we can do that complements that and aids our member-facing teams to do an even better job at serving our members today has always been top focus. So we did that by introducing Olive. I've spoken about her quite a bit. So she, much like what they have done at April's credit union, she sits at the carrier level. So that's that first initial conversation. We've not taken it as far as what more of that in-branch experience. I'd love to dig into that more in the future. But then other areas that we're looking at, this is a strategy for 2025 for our credit union at Great Lakes. So this is a focus. One important thing to note is that just today, for instance, my deposit operations team has opened 50 tickets this year with my technology team for automation opportunities. So I just think about the tremendous impact that would have once implemented, right? We're just struggling with people and time to get it done. But by using machine learning, by using RPA, the different variations of AI that are out there to help us propel forward, to give us better results, so it's more accurate and we can act on it. That's really our focus. We'll continue on that along with searching for a fraud detection tool.
Unless you've been hiding under a rock, you know the Fed recently made a 0.5% rate cut, and rumors suggest more cuts are on the way. As rates drop, credit union leaders will need to adjust their strategies. So my question to you is, April, with these rate cuts in mind, what adjustments are you planning on making at MSU FCU to take advantage?
Well, I think there's two elements to this. So there's member experience and service. So I think that's probably the heart of what you're asking. But I think for us, we also are doing a lot on the finance and the financial tools side for managing the credit union's balance sheet in a volatile rate environment. So my answer on the member side is a few things. We have implemented, because I think even though not many people secured a new mortgage in the last 2 years, we did have people who took a new mortgage in the last 2 years. And as soon as the rates do come price down, right, they're going to want to refinance. So we have put in a process to modify and refinance with us. That will be a quicker member experience. So we'll also do some calculations on current rate to the new rate to determine if it's worth your time and money for new closing costs and things like that. So I think that's something that we've launched since to be ready if there is a mortgage refinance. And then on the deposit side, as rates come down, of course, that means short-term deposit rates are coming down first. And so we have a variety of programs for tying the members to a longer-term deposit and making sure those are top of mind. We've also created a product that we call Savings Builder, and it is designed to pay you a higher dividend on your first $2,000 on deposit and then come down. So almost like a reverse of what you might expect, really to encourage people to have that emergency savings. And then it creates a blended rate after the first $2,000. The next rate tiers are lower. And so I think trying to still give people a really good rate for their on deposit funds that they might want to have more liquid is what we're working on doing as well. And then just briefly on the finance tool side, I also think some products are already priced right in the marketplace for members because the yield curve was inverted. And so not all loan rates are coming down at the speed that people are expecting. Not all deposit rates are coming up or down as the speed people are expecting. But what we definitely know is our own organization's balances at the Fed, those deposit rates came down, right? And so you need to be planning to look at the impact in what you have in your short-term overnight funds and where would you redeploy for your own corporate investments of the organization. And then how much the loan portfolio will you hold or sell based upon what the market rates are so you can continue to manage your interest rate risk. I think those are two important aspects of what's happening in the rate change environment.
That was some great insight. Let's pass it over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, what's your take on the lowered rates? They're coming down. What are you doing to prepare? Or maybe you're not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's such an interesting period of time. I don't think any of us can really say we've lived through that, right? It's just, this is unheard of. The biggest challenge I see is what the average consumer in America really understands. So when they hear in the news a rate cut's coming, I think most people that don't work in banking are like, oh, that means my mortgage rate, I can buy a house now, right? And so we know in banking, that's not always the case. And that's exactly like April stated, right? The short-term overnight funds, short-term rate versus long-term rates, they're not the same. And so it's all about how do you kind of tell that story to your members to help educate and understand. So I would expect that we will start to have those discussions with members about refinancing, just like what they're doing at April's credit union, to really help educate them on how to really continue to evolve and prepare through this period of time. The hope is that rates continue to come down, right? And as that happens, that will just broaden the different opportunities we can provide. But for now, it's really educate, give members the opportunity to refinance if it's out there. Hopefully auto rates, that should also take some effect pretty soon, right? Looking into opportunities to lend there. We are still slowly getting back into lending in this market. So I don't see a lot of change happening at Great Lakes Credit Union for some time, but we're preparing for it. And I think really financial education is key. Anything we can do to help speak to members in their language where they get it, and it'll help them prepare for the future.
Is there anything from a campaign standpoint that you're doing to educate the member? Is there something that you're really actively doing right now to educate them about what can happen with lower rates, refinancing, et cetera?
This all goes back to our HUD counselors. So we're one of only, I think it's 6, it might be a little more now, HUD certified credit unions in the United States. And so our financial counselors work with members and non-members alike to help them to build that financial plan, whether it be to get out of debt, whether it be to buy a house, whatever the case. So that plan, it complements what's happening in the market right now too. So it's constantly evolving and we're growing in that area. We continue to hire more and more counselors in our branches that can help. And so I expect that will continue because we have a lot of members that need that financial assistance and non-members alike. So anything we can do for that. So that will just be a heightened awareness and continued conversations with a plan that is set to help them prepare for those changes coming forward.
April, I see you nodding your head. I'm wondering, do you yourself also have financial counselors and pursue that kind of strategy as well?
Absolutely. We have our branch team is designed to be a full service financial experience, consultative, help members work through an education process to approaching their financial tools and management that they individually use. We also have a full team that are financial educators that do community programming, either on site or in community partnerships. And so those folks are also working through how to help everyone budget, read credit reports, understand rates, everything along that line.
Speaks to the mission. Love it.
This is one of my favorite parts of the show. This is where we get to talk to guests about what they're doing within their credit union to try to give you some tips, some insights, maybe to help you with your initiatives inside your credit union. And April, I think it's pretty safe to say that when it comes to innovation, you were definitely on the Mount Rushmore of credit union leaders. I've interviewed you in the past about your innovation lab. You do a lot of innovation in-house, so you're not always, no offense to other credit unions, but a lot of them, they're not building, they're buying. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a strategic decision, but you actually do a lot of building when it comes to innovation. And I talk to a lot of credit union leaders who desperately want to innovate the way that you do at MSU Federal. But for whatever reason, they don't know where to start or they don't know what needs to be done, right? Because you're kind of like up on the mountain and then you have a lot of credit union leaders that are at the very bottom thinking to themselves, I want to do what she's doing, but geez, there's a lot of obstacles. So for those leaders listening who aspire to follow in your footsteps, could you give us some key elements that you've implemented to foster the culture of innovation that you have at MSU Federal Credit Union?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. Let me do the best that I can to boil it down. So one, I need to tell everybody, the outputs that you see today did not happen overnight. So a long-term strategic plan that we've had to get to the point where we are today. So we do have a history of building. I think some of it originated from 20 years ago when we hire from the university, right? So you have to think when the internet and technology was changing into software development, we had opportunity to hire people to build for us, and the cost analysis at the time was beneficial for the build. I would continue to recommend that everybody look at that. Certain things we build, certain things we buy. It's how you integrate them together. That's also really critical. So some key things for a culture of innovation needs to be shared with the leadership and the board. I think what I hear the most is from maybe a person 1 or 2 levels below my direct reports say that they don't get support from the CEO and the executives to do innovation. So I think, one, you have to spend some time with your leaders to make sure that everybody wants to go on an innovation path, because that helps. You can say it, but you have to really mean it and do it. We also involve everyone in the organization. Innovation isn't all the fun, exciting technology things that you see us doing in the marketplace. It's one incremental improvement every day on something we're already doing. And a lot of our employees have input into what that is. And so we survey employees, we get ideas from our employees, we do member feedback. And then the other thing I would say is a data strategy. We don't partner with a fintech or make our own technology if we don't see a member value and need in this. I always promote a few of our fintech partners because they're great use cases for how we did the data. Changed is a partner that's been in the marketplace for a long time. They round up and pay down your student loan. I saw them speak somewhere. We came back. I had our team look at our transactional data to see if our members were actually utilizing this service. And of course, we serve young people who went to university, so they were. It wasn't just a gut instinct. I backed it up with data. Then we use that for our partnership. There is a lot of technology options for everyone to partner with, to integrate with, but we take it all from a data-driven decision and a member engagement on that. So we ask members if you would use it, we pilot, and we set metrics before we do a full deployment. So there are a lot of steps in that. We're always happy to share with anyone in the industry. I do lots of conversations. I've talked to leadership teams. I've talked to board members. I've talked to anyone who will ask me. We'll talk through our day-to-day steps because it's really important.
Really appreciate what you said about the incremental steps. I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you think that you have to blast off to the moon with one fell swoop. And the fact that you're guided by what the member needs on a day-to-day totally demystifies a lot of the process when it comes to innovation. Elizabeth, you are no slouch over there at Great Lakes. I see you at conferences. I see you on talks. You're very forward-thinking. Give us some insight about your sort of methodology for how leaders can innovate and improve.
Yeah, so I just have to say first, honestly, I was just so excited to hear what April had to say, because April, you are truly known as the leader of an extremely innovative credit union. And you're innovative, but you're also very involved in more traditional growth. So the reason I say that is I drove by your Lincoln Park branch that's being built. It looks very nice on Friday.
Thank you. I forgot your organization has the only other real credit union presence in the city.
Yeah.
So, that for us is just, we have so many Spartans there. We were trying to serve our existing members, not to invade anyone else's location.
It's a big city. Lots of room for credit unions. We're good. Yeah, no, it's great.
Right.
But it's a great area. So thank you for that. And so just really excited to hear your thoughts on that. One thing that stood out to me is certain things that you bill and certain things you buy. And so I'd love to separately, if we could spend time to learn more about that, because we're in that asset side where it's a tough size, right? But just from my experience, I'm seeing in the credit union industry that you really need leaders. You need executives, you need a CEO that's very open to experimenting and trying out new technology where it makes sense, right? Where the calculated risk, the gain of that risk makes sense for your membership base. And so we've done that through investments in technology, in which we invest in QSO, but then we also try it out with our members. And so that's been a good way for us to really evolve. When I first started here, we're kind of sometimes going all in. And then we're like, oh, maybe we should have tried out something a little different first, or maybe experiment a little bit more. So we, much like what April shared, piloting is key. Use data to make better decisions, measure against that. So set metrics. I run a PMO group, and my PMO team works really hard with the business to set those metrics for projects. And then you got to hold yourself accountable to those metrics and use data to do that. That is key. Some credit unions, they don't have that insight at the leadership level, and that's so important. But I do think that's why you're seeing some of that, some CEOs starting to be replaced as they're retiring with more tech leaders. You're seeing tech teams with more technology background, and that is key to our future for the industry.
That brings us to the end of the show, and that means final thoughts. April, what final thoughts would you like to share with our listeners?
Well, I think final thoughts for me are really focused on our last segment, which is the technology. I think it is critical to understand what technology is available to you, but also what the application is in your organization, whether that's the AI development, whether that's bringing in fintech partners or new technology, whether you build it, whether you buy it, but really data-driven, metric-based decisions that will help create a competitive engagement from your members, right? Everything we're doing is because I want to retain members and keep them focused on doing business with our credit union. I want them to leave us because they can get it better somewhere else, right? So I think you need to understand your members. You need to do that research and homework and then appropriately deploy the technology.
And April, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, I need to get in touch with her, she blew my mind. What is the best way that somebody can get in touch with you?
Oh, it's super easy. I share my personal contact with everyone, but my email is literally my name, april.klobes, C-L-O-B as in boy, E-S @msufcu.org. I read all my own email, shoot me an email, and we'll spend time connecting and talking through what I can help you with.
Excellent. And Elizabeth, final thoughts?
Yeah, I loved our conversation about AI use cases, and then ending that with innovation really ties the two together. So many credit unions are in strategic planning right now, or you're really in the heat of it like we are. So if AI and innovation is not part of your plan, you need to rethink your plan. I really, really firmly believe that, because it should be a driver for some parts, not all, but some parts. So don't leave it behind. Don't get left behind.
Love that. And how can we get a hold of you?
Send me an email, much like April. So elizabeth.osborne, OSBORNE, @glcu.org.
Excellent. I want to thank April for coming on the show today. I want to thank Elizabeth for being a special guest co-host. And I want to send a special thanks to you, our listeners, for continuing to support and listen to another episode of Grow Your Credit Union. Remember, if you like the show, please follow us on your podcast player of choice and share an episode with someone who would benefit from listening. If you want to be a guest or would like to talk about sponsorship opportunities, head over to growyourcreditunion.com to learn more. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Take care, and bye-bye.